Today we are here to show you how to extend the life of your interior, and that's because those typical cleansers that you use to spiff up your interior can actually contain over-aggressive chemicals that can actually accelerate the deterioration of those plastic, fabric, and leather surfaces. Hello everybody, I am the Director of Success, Chris Ricana, here in the Dr. Beasley's clean room with my 2021 Subaru WRX. Now, this vehicle is only 18 months, but we have already racked up over 30,000 family-driven miles. This car does not get the prized possession treatment, it gets the family truckster treatment. Now that we've completed our exterior wash, we can move on to the actual interior detail process. But first, I need to ask you guys for a favor. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button, and while you're there, tickle that notification bell so that way you can be informed every time we drop a new video on the Dr. Beasley's YouTube page. Now let's continue on with our interior detail process that starts with our interior inspection so we know what we're getting into. So let's have a look at this filthy interior. So now to have a little bit of a better idea what we're working with in this interior. I mean, first of all, on first assessment, black interior, and I can see dust and film just kind of everywhere, just nastiness and stuff you're inhaling. So yes, I mean, definitely, obviously, dashboard is gonna have to be addressed. Lots of crumbs in the boot here. The seats on initial inspection actually are in pretty good nick. I don't see really any stains of any sort. So no obvious staining except for right underneath the pedals, the brake and the accelerator and the gas pedal. Looks like we have some salt staining there. Now to the back seat. This is really where the lion's share of the work's gonna be, and we can see we got some spills over here, likely from some sippy cups or other things. We got potential tissues shoved into the door handle here. We have wrapping paper. Jeez Louise, I got all sorts of stuff in here. So in the trunk, we're gonna have to obviously clean out. We'll go ahead and get all this bags and all this other stuff out of here. Make sure we get this looking all as close to new as we can. Now that we've removed all the personal belongings out of the car, we want to address the floor mats. Now, in the case of fabric floor mats, we want to get to them as soon as possible, so that way if we have to break out the extractor and really get at them, we're going to give them the maximum amount of time to be able to dry before we place them back in the car. But in this specific example, we have rubber mats, so we're gonna go address those right now with the power washer. Now, in the case that you have rubber floor mats that have a little bit heavier staining, I have a hack for you. So, Total Decon. This is typically something they're gonna use on the paint of your car in prep for a coating. This is also a great chemical for cleaning these rubber floor mats, but there is one thing you gotta watch out for. If you let this product sit on these mats and dry and put it out in the sun, it could cause them to, it could chalk them out, cause them to get light gray. So we wanna make sure if we're gonna use Total Decon to clean our mats, we wanna do a super thorough rinse to make sure we have all of the chemical removed from the surface. And now I'm just gonna take some Total Decon and treat the mats real quick. Again, a spray, and then we'll agitate. And this is really great at removing all that kind of more stubborn issues that you can find on your floor mats, especially of your family truckster. All right, so now that we've completed our mats, we can start our blowout and vacuum. So instead of reaching all the way up here and trying to dust all that, I can simply just blow it out. One thing I will note, so the little felt piece from inside the center console just came out. So these I don't ever remove out of the car because quite honestly, you'll never find it again. So when these pop out, I kind of take care of them where they are, do the best I can, blow that out, and I'm gonna put it right back in here. So that way it is where it belongs and I don't have to worry about it. And now onto the back seat. So again, top down, center out. Don't ever forget the rear seat pockets, folks. And now we can start to vacuum. Making sure we spread all the seams to get all the little crumbs, all the little graham crackers and cookies and mini granola balls and anything else these kids are eating back here. Always, again, door pockets. I like to get this vacuumed in here. You never know what the kids are sticking down in there too. Seats have been vacuumed. We made sure we got the seams. Of course, you know, don't ever forget, another easily missed area, make sure you get the armrest out. Now that we've had the seats are all clean, we got them all vacuumed up and blown off, we're gonna go down to the carpets and work on getting the carpets clean. So the idea here is I want to get most of the loose stuff off this carpet. I'm going to notice there is a little bit of staining here that we are going to have to address. Before I address this little staining right here, I want to make sure all this other contaminants, dirt, God knows what else, crumbs, I want to make this because I don't want to sit here and address these little spots by brushing them or possibly with the extractor. If I got all this loose stuff here, I'm just jamming those even further in there. So I want to avoid that and get all these loose contaminants out of here before I address that staining. So in the footwell on the driver's side of the Subaru, and we have some salt staining right here. So what we're going to do is we have our Dr. Beasley salt chisel, which is specifically formulated for salt stains. So I know that's what this is. That's why I'm going for this. I'm skipping over the carpet and upholstery cleanser, going right for the salt chisel because I know what this is. So pretty straightforward here. I've cleaned all the loose contaminants off the surface. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray right on. And I'm going to be fairly liberal with my application. Now I don't want to go overboard because I don't want to oversaturate and then to the point where it goes through the carpet and into the foam that's underneath here. But you do want to give this ample dwell time and you'll actually see it start to break down the salt. And if you were to listen closely enough, you can actually hear it breaking down the salt. So quite an interesting product, but we want to give it ample time and then we can agitate as well. So I have my Horsehair interior brush here. So I can sit here and just agitate and loosen some of that. And then what I'm gonna do is come back with one of my interior microfibers and I'm simply gonna wipe up whatever residue on the surface. Beauty. And now I have successfully removed that salt stain from my interior. So we are in the back seat, but this stain is actually underneath the passenger front seat of the Subaru. And my kids aren't allowed to have gum, but they got something sticky in here and that's now just completely dried into our interior carpet. What's making it all the more interesting is that it is on this, where this cutout is here too. So this makes it a bit of a challenge to try and get this off, but we're gonna do our best. So first thing we're gonna do is we have our carpet and upholstery cleanser. We're gonna pre-treat it with this. So we're gonna go ahead and again, fairly liberal with the application. I don't want to oversaturate it because again, I want to get it onto the surface. I do not want to get so much product in here that soaks through the carpet into the padding that's underneath. What we're going to do here is now I'm going to take a microfiber towel and lay that over the top of this, and I'm going to go ahead and get our steamer, and then I'm going to steam this and try and remove that sticky stuff. So definitely seeing an improvement there, but we got more to go. So we're gonna up our aggression by multiple applications. So again, I'm gonna spray some more carpet and upholstery cleanser on there. Think about 1-2 more applications and we should be good to go. I'm gonna take a nice dry microfiber and try to sop up as much of that moisture as I can. Got a little bit of residue left in there, but I really don't want to work it much further than that because I don't want to lose this little piece of carpeting here. I think if I work it much more than that, I'm going to end up losing that altogether. So I'm going to make sure I have all this, since I was using steam, I'm going to go ahead and get a microfiber underneath here, soak up any moisture I got underneath there. Obviously we don't want any mold issues. So we're gonna try and clean that out as best we can. Hopefully without that sticky gum there, nothing else will stick to it and we're gonna be good to go. So let's continue on with our interior detail. Okay, so we are in the carpet and we're going to pre-treat this area with some carpet and upholstery cleanser. Now this is pretty good nick back here. Little stain right there, little stain right here. I'm suspecting I can get these out without the extractor. And again, with detailing, it's ramping up your aggression. We start at the lowest rung on the ladder of aggression and we work our way up. So to start with, in this case, a simple spray of carpet and upholstery cleanser, and then I'm gonna take my interior brush and agitate. And I'm gonna go over generally the entire area because I do want to clean everything. But I really want to make sure I address where this little stain was, which seems to be doing quite well at this point, and then where this little kind of brown stain was over here, which also seems to be coming up pretty well. I'm gonna come back with an interior microfiber and just kind of wipe up as much of that residue and dirt. You can see how dirty this got. And hopefully, if I don't have to break out the extractor, that's all the better, because that means I'm not introducing unnecessary amounts of moisture and water. I'd have to say I am pretty happy that we are really not seeing that stain that was right here. That seems to be gone, and that brown stain that was back down here is completely gone. So we're looking good here, but you know, as I move across into the interior to the transmission tunnel, that's a different story. All right, so back at the transmission tunnel, so we're gonna try the same process, but I'm gonna suspect, because we got a lot more wear here, that we're gonna need to get a little bit more aggressive. But again, I'm gonna pre-treat with our carpet and upholstery cleanser, and I'm gonna agitate with my interior brush. And again, not that I'm trying to get any specific stain out, it's just from the kids jumping on over this with their boots and shoes and whatever. This is really kind of just got ground in gunk in here. So we're gonna see how well we can do with just a simple treat and wipe, treat, agitate, and wipe. You know, which is a nice improvement, but not really what I'm looking for. I really looking for something more. So we're gonna get more aggressive with this, and we're gonna go to the extractor. And once again, here I'm going to pre-treat with my carpet upholstery cleanser. That will allow, the cleanser will now break down those contaminants sitting on the surface. Oh yeah, see, now we're getting some of that ground in dirt up. Agitate a little bit more with our brush. Try to get more of these contaminants on the surface loose. Now let's wipe up with our microfiber. Try to remove some of that additional moisture from the surface. I wasn't expecting perfection, I was expecting a dramatic improvement, and that's exactly what I got. Let's quickly wrap up the rest of this carpet so then we can start moving on to cleaning some plastic materials. Moving on, again, it's top down. So I'm going to address any plastic parts that are on the top and then kind of work my way down. I am going to avoid spraying anything directly onto my navigation or any sort of electronic controls like that. For those areas, I'll spray into my towel. And again, as far as what I am using to clean, I'm using an appropriate cleanser for the appropriate substrate. So we are looking at cleaning these interior plastic surfaces. So again, if we get too aggressive with our cleanser, we're going to cause these materials to prematurely fail and break down. So that's why we're going to go with an interior cleanser. This is a cleanser dedicated for these surfaces. This is the appropriate level of aggression for your interior molded plastic surfaces. So I'm going to start up here, up on top with the visor. As when we were doing our inspection, we found some little makeup spots on this hard plastic mirror cover. So we're going to go ahead and address that right now. Now again, it's all about using the appropriate aggression. I don't need to start getting all super spray on this and get all heavy-handed with it. I can do fairly simple application, spray into my towel, and clean off. And we'll come back with our glass cleanser, of course, and get all the mirrors, but we're going to make sure that all this plastic is smudge free. And like I said, we'll come back and we will deal with the glass later, so I'm not concerned about that. And again, we'll notice OEM finish. We're not changing any finishes here. That's exactly what I want to be left with. I want to be left with how it looked from the factory. And so again, now coming into the rear view mirror surround, I'm going to go ahead and again spray into my towel, into my microfiber, because I don't want to spray it all over my glass, and I'm going to clean around, and I will come back and address the glass before we get into conditioning. And there's that. And now into the dashboard. So this is a molded plastic dashboard. Even though they got our nice little red leather stitching, this actually isn't. Actually, this little piece is upholstered up here, but this and this and this is all hard plastics. So again, what we're gonna do, you can feel free if you want to spray directly on there, you absolutely can do that, but you're gonna get overspray on your glass. Now, I'm not real concerned about that at this particular juncture, because I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna address the glass anyway. So I can go ahead and then clean all my interior surfaces. Now again, I do want to avoid spraying on, I have a secondary navigation screen, secondary screen here. I want to avoid spraying directly on that. So I'm going to go all around it, but I'm not going to spray anything directly on that. And same goes with my navigation. I'm not going to spray anything directly on my navigation. I'm going to spray into my towel and then clean. So I'm going to give my initial wipe down to the dashboard, steering wheel, and other areas of the dash. But when it comes to the center stack over here, the vent louvers and where the some electronics and stuff like that is, I'm actually going to spray directly into my brush. I don't want to spray directly onto those electronics or into the vent louvers necessarily, because I'm not going to be able to get that back out, and I certainly want to be conscious of any electronics that I don't want to damage. So again, I'm going to use my interior brush, spray into the brush, and then I'm going to clean those surfaces. Now, there is a great hack when it comes to making our life easier, especially when it comes to these vent louvers down the road. But we will talk about this down the road a little bit in our protection segment, as far as making maintenance of these louvers much, much easier. But continuing on through the center stack, now that I get down by the gear shift, the e-brake, and the cup holders, here is where I am going to spray directly onto the surface, and again, use my interior brush to agitate and loosen any of those more stubborn contaminants that might be sticking down here. Don't forget about your belt buckles, folks. They get touched a lot, they get used a lot, and they don't get cleaned a lot. So that's absolutely something you don't want to forget about. And of course, I'm going to do my initial wipe down before I bring air in. Now, you can use air to dry, compressed air, but what I'm worried about here is forcing product into places that it shouldn't be with that forced air, with that compressed air. So that's why I'm going to go through initial wipe down with my microfiber, and then I'm going to come back with the air to do the kind of final dry out. Again, I just didn't want anything sitting in there getting jammed into places it's not supposed to be. And again, here we'll see with around the steering wheel column, and the controls on the steering wheel. While I'll spray directly onto the horn area, I'm not spraying directly onto any electronic controls. I'm going to go ahead and just use my brush, wipe down, and then come back with the air for the final wipe down. Of course, when it comes to the door cards, one great thing, especially when it comes to the speaker grills, this is where having a good interior brush, again, pays dividends to get all that dust and debris that tends to get caught in those places out. Again, I like to do my spray, my brush and agitate, my wipe down, and then I come back with air to finish it off to give it a nice, clean, complete look. Of course, on a dashboard, feel free to spray directly on it, and then get into the vent louvers. I am not spraying directly into there. I'm just going to brush them out. But again, not concerned necessarily about electronics in this area, just want to get it nice and clean as quickly and efficiently as possible. Now, when it comes to spot cleaning a headliner, we're using our carpet and upholstery cleanser, but very lightly. I'm addressing only the area, and I'm not rubbing, I am dabbing. And again, I'm doing multiple applications here. So the idea is that we want to address only that spot. We're not doing a complete treatment of the headliner, we're only doing that one spot.
So I'm coming through, again, I'm just treating just the one direct little area where we have that contaminant on the surface. I'm allowing dwell time, and then I am simply dabbing with a damp microfiber towel, and then I'm coming back with a dry microfiber towel to try and basically suck out as much of that moisture out of the headliner as possible, and then we let it dry.
All right, so from the back seat of the Subaru, this is the rear of the driver's seat. So we did have the WeatherTech seat back savers here, but again, they didn't save everything. So what we have, first of all, we got some nasty crustiness going on there. And then also up on the headrest, it looks like we might have, I don't know if that's ink or chalk or marker, or these are areas that we're gonna have to address. We also have quite a bit of schmutz on top of the leather upholstered armrest. So what I'm actually gonna use here is something new that I've been playing with, something that I've dubbed the interior rat, because it's a rather rat looking like color. So the whole idea here is this, instead of a microfiber, is a little bit more aggressive. It's not quite as aggressive as a brush, but I don't know, I just feel much better about putting this on leather than I do a bristle brush. So anyway, I can either spray into my interior rat if I want, or I can spray directly onto the surface, onto the leather, and then I'm gonna agitate. And again, I'm using the fine leather cleanser because we always start at the lowest step of aggression. So if I'm unable to get out these more stubborn spots with the fine leather cleanser, I can up my aggression by going to a more aggressive chemical, mainly our Opti leather cleanser, which is our leather spot cleaner. But for now, I'm just using our fine leather cleanser, which is our general leather cleanser. So let's see how this did. All right, so looks like we did get out that spot that was on the side bolster over here, and still got a little bit left of it in the grain. So you know what I'm gonna do? I am gonna up my chemical aggression. We're gonna go to the Opti leather cleanser. Let's go ahead and grab our microfiber, go underneath the spot we're addressing. And now we're gonna use our Opti leather cleanser. And when again, giving it ample dwell time to let it dwell on the surface and break down the contaminant. Use a little bit of force here to kind of agitate. There we go. No more purple spot on the back of the leather headrest. Let's go ahead and continue on our cleaning process. Again, we're going to use our fine leather cleanser as our general leather cleaner, and we're going to clean up all the leather in this vehicle. If we come across any other stubborn spots, we will up our aggression either with multiple applications of the fine leather cleanser, or if necessary, we'll up our chemical aggression and go to Opti leather cleanser. So if you have heated and or cooled seats with the perforations in the leather, I'm not a big fan of spraying stuff directly onto that leather because I do not want to soak it down into electronics and that sort of thing. So this is, again, well, I'm going to go to the tool that I'm using to agitate. So this interior scrub, which I lovingly call my interior rat, and then I can go and scrub. And then come back with my microfiber to clean it up. Voila, and then continuing on up onto the back as well. I'm gonna go ahead, spray into my interior scrub here. Of course, I'm gonna lean the seat all the way back too, so that way I can be sure to get all the creases and crevices. So now I can get down here and clean all the leather all the way down at the bottom of the seat as well. If there's gonna be sticky little nasty stuff that falls anywhere, well, gravity's gonna take over and send it all down here. So let's go ahead and make sure that we got all of these areas addressed. Now I am seeing some contaminants, some schmutz getting into these perforations here that I'm not able to get out with this interior scrub. So it looks like we might have to up our aggression a little bit. So let's go get our interior brush to see if we can't get those out. So here again, we have our Horsehair interior brush. Spray some of my fine leather cleanser on it. I'm gonna see if we can't unplug some of these perforations. And that's our leather treatment. So Again, perforated areas, if we can avoid spraying directly on it, that would be the preferred way to do it. And otherwise, you know, if we need to do some spot cleaning, that's when we go to a dedicated spot cleaner. But again, folks, this is where it's not about having one product for every substrate in your interior. That's how things go sideways, and that's how you shorten the life of your interior materials. By using the appropriate techniques and the appropriate chemicals for each substrate, we are actually lengthening and getting more life out of our interior. Speaking of interior glass, specifically your rear view mirror and your nav screen, even though that's not glass. Those are things that you tend to touch a lot and then can get full of fingerprints and other stuff. So a little bit of protection in addition to cleaning would be a good idea here, and that's exactly where Glass IQ comes in handy. Again, just to avoid overspray, I'm gonna spray directly into my glass towel, and I'm gonna let it sit there. So I'm pretty heavy-handed with it. You can see that I'm letting it sit on the surface, and while I'm letting that dwell, I'm actually gonna go ahead and go over the nav screen here as well. And the idea here is I don't necessarily want this to dry, but I want to give it some dwell time, so that way that hydrophobic coating is able to hold on and give us that contaminant and smudge resistance that we're looking for. So again, I'm gonna go back here and then now just keep on working it off until I get that brilliant, there we go, that perfect, brilliant reflection, smudge and streak free. There it is, look at that, nice. Then we go down to our nav screen here and remove any residual Glass IQ from that. And now, folks, we are extending the life of these surfaces because wow, is that just, I can feel it even with just moving my towel across it, is that slick and smooth. So it's about using the appropriate cleansers and the appropriate techniques to get the most out of your interior and extend its life. Just one thing to note when we're dealing with the steering wheel column is your stalks with your turn signals and whatnot, and any switches that are on your steering wheel that has this little white printing on there. This white printing that's all over here is very delicate actually, and if you get overly aggressive with your chemical or your tool, you can actually remove that pretty easily. So generally what we're recommending for these areas, microfiber towel, spray into your microfiber towel our interior cleanser, which is the appropriate cleanser for this area. And then I'm even gonna just kind of come in and dab into my towel a little bit just because I don't want to oversaturate. And then I'm just gonna give it a gentle clean. You know, again, I don't really want to put a great deal of aggression on there as far as really scrubbing or rubbing very hard on it. If there is some schmutz or something on there that you need to get off, it's just more about working it delicately, using the appropriate chemical, allowing it to break down. But again, especially around where we got this white writing and stuff like that, we want to be super cautious around those areas on these stalks just to make sure we don't inadvertently remove any of these markings. Okay, so all of our switches are nice and clean, and they still have all of their white markings, so win-win for everybody. All right, so now that we've completed the cleansing process, now we're gonna move into the conditioning process, and I always like to start with the plastics, mainly because I wanna finish with the leather, because what do you sit on? You sit on leather, so let me do that last. So I'm gonna go ahead and get inside the car here, and we're gonna look at the door card out here, and we're gonna see, we do have some Mars and stuff like that in the plastic here. This is not about getting shiny or slick. This is gonna be a very nice OEM satin finish once we're completed. Now, you'll notice, putting the product on a little bit goes a long way, especially with plastic conditioner. You see how it sits on top of the applicator. It's not soaking into the applicator. But what I will do is kind of spread it out a little bit and then work it into the surface. Now, if I saw residue still sitting on top after 30 seconds or a minute or a couple of minutes, then I would come back and wipe it off with the microfiber. But I can tell right now, this is actually very thirsty and this plastic is actually dried out. So it's a really good thing we are here conditioning it so we can keep it looking well, because really, if we allow it to dry out, it's going to get more and more rigid, and that's how we're going to get cracking, and it's going to get beat up by the UV rays, which is going to cause more cracking and fading. So this is why it's so important not only to clean and cleanse, but also to condition, because when we clean, yes, we're removing all that contaminants and dirt and dust from the surface, which is going to help the surface not wear as fast. Because if you have a surface that's full of dust and you're constantly rubbing on it, it's going to wear faster. So by cleaning, we are extending the life of our substrate. Now by conditioning, we are continuing to extend the life of this material by keeping it clean and by conditioning it. Now I'm gonna come back later and I'm gonna do the leather, but if I happen to come over the leather a little bit, it's not the end of the world, but I am gonna be coming back with our leather cream that is specifically formulated for leather that has lanolin in it to feed leather. This plastic conditioner has the appropriate formulation to feed these molded plastic surfaces and keep them looking well for years to come. And there you have plastic conditioner. So if we look actually, again over here, high wear spot, and because as the shoes have been kicked across this, then they've embedded contaminants in there. So we've now cleaned all those contaminants out of all this marring. Now let's try to even this out so it's a little bit more consistent as far as the look, and see if we can make it look a little bit fresher. Let's get everywhere. Just gonna come back with a clean, simple wipe. And there we go. Now, again, at a certain point, you're not gonna be able to fix damaged plastic, but we've definitely made it look a lot better and a lot healthier. Okay, so now into leather conditioning. So the leather cream is actually formulated with lanolin, so we are actually feeding the leather here. So a couple of bit of advice: if you have really dry leather like this is, you can go pretty heavy-handed on it and then let it sit on here for about a good 10 or 15 minutes. And if you see it still just that there's nothing left on the surface after 5 or 10 minutes, go with another treatment. You gotta feed that leather and make sure it doesn't dry out. That's how we keep it from cracking. That's how we keep leather looking well and lasting for many years to come. We have to feed it. Now, when you're applying leather cream, a couple of things to note. Again, notice if you have perforations to deal with. You don't want to get in a situation where you're having to pick leather cream out of these perforations or out of where the stitching is or any seams like that. So that's why we're gonna go ahead and be pretty generous here, because I know this leather is fairly dry. And you can see how the leather cream is beautiful because it sits on top, but I am gonna kind of spread it out on my applicator. And I'm gonna start in an area where I have non-perforated leather without any stitching. And you can see how immediately it richens the color. And now that I have some of it spread out, now is the point where I can come over to where it's perforated, and I can condition these perforated areas without fear of jamming conditioner into the perforations or into the stitching. Give the leather an opportunity to absorb all the nutrients that are in the leather conditioner, and then we can come back with our microfiber and take off any residual product. And now we reveal that beautiful OEM look, no shine, no slipperiness, just clean and pure. And that's how we're gonna condition our leather interior. And then the final step for our interior detail is to replace all the personal belongings that we took out of the car at the beginning of this process. We are now going to put back into the car for the customer to find when they take delivery of their car. So with that, that's it. We're all done. The interior detail on the WRX is complete. This is not going to only make my wife happy, but this is going to make this car easier to maintain, easier to keep looking well, and also keep resale value high. With that, folks, I want to thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this interior detailing video. If you want to see more videos like this, or maybe you want to see another process, hey, how about mentioning it down in the comments below? We appreciate that feedback. We love having that dialogue with all you out there in YouTube land. And one final thing, I do want to ask you for a favor, folks. Help me educate America. If you're out there driving in the left lane and you're not passing anyone, it's time to move over to the right. That is because it is left lane for passing, middle lane for cruising, and right lane for entering and exiting the expressway. Thank you so much, everyone. Drive safely.